Welcome to At Issue. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm H. Wayne Wilson, and we're going to talk about entrepreneurs today in 3 different areas, and they're all Central Illinoisans making a success out of small companies that they hope will grow into large companies. And to have that conversation, we welcome Brian Ballard. Brian is the founder of White Oak Brewing in Normal, Illinois. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Dr. Luke Haverhals is the founder and CEO of Natural Fiber Welding Incorporated. He's also a Bradley Professor of Chemistry, which will explain something about the natural fiber welding. That sounds like an oxymoron at first glance.
Right, yeah, no, glad to be here.
So, and then also let's welcome Matt Sciascetti. He is the president of DevBright Incorporated in Peoria. DevBright is a developer of different software programs, and we'll talk a little bit about that also. But first, let's, in the same order, let's just a brief description of White Oak Brewing.
All right, White Oak Brewing is a relatively new company here in Central Illinois. We started in October of 2015, so we're about 1.25 years old. We started as a small craft brewery in an industrial park on the west side of Normal, near off of Route 150, so not actually too far from Peoria here. We're on the west side of town there. In the last year, we've grown and added some legislation to the town of Normal to allow us to open a tap room. So that's the newest development there, and added that as an aspect to what was initially just a production-only brewery.
And we're going to be showing you some of the beers that they have developed, I guess we can say, over time in just a moment. But first, let's go to natural fiber welding. Welding and fiber.
That's right. So we're a manufacturing platform, is maybe the simple way to put it. There's a lot of materials in your everyday life that are made out of plastic and petroleum, and the truth is, you could get those same functionalities by growing fiber locally and doing processes that turn it into those form factors, chairs, furniture, all the kinds of things that we use at home. So it's a chemistry process that imparts a physical change to literally weld fibers together so that you don't need to use glue.
And we're talking about natural fibers.
We're talking about things that farmers can grow, or in the case of textiles and things people throw away.
We'll talk more about that in just a moment, but first let's go over to Matt. And you do software development. Now, as a layperson, I would look at you and say, that's a pretty crowded market. Right. Why would you do that? What is it?
Right, yeah, so we got started about 2 years ago under the Startup of Peoria initiative. And we build software tools, and of course that varies the spectrum. We build cutting edge, unique web-based tools, such as tools like Slack and Facebook, and we can also build beautiful looking brochure websites and things like that. So it really spans the spectrum as far as function and utility is concerned, varying different levels of complexity as well.
So in chatting with you before we did this taping, all of you have background in that particular arena. You're a chemist. Mm-hmm. You've been doing software for quite some time.
Right.
You had a home brewing outfit before, so you've been a kind of a beer connoisseur for some time. So you have expertise, but you don't have expertise in starting a company, running a company. Was this scary, and what did you do for help? Luke, did you seek out help?
I did. I was really fortunate. The Bradley University has there's a tech incubator associated with it in the Small Business Development Center. So I reached out to help and met a guy named Chad Stamper, who then referred me to another gentleman named Steve Zika, and got a lot of mentorship in just business planning and how do you do a pitch and a whole bunch of things. In addition, I got some help as well there's a company north of town here called Karis Corporation. Some really good folks that work up there also that gave some really good advice early on and how to think about what this technology is, what it can be, and how to turn it into a company that can be here for the long haul.
Matt, same question. Scary moments, seeking help in some arenas?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in order to be successful when you're starting a business, at first it's going to require being honest about your strengths and weaknesses. And all of us share a similar characteristic in that, we're really good at our core discipline, our core profession. And then when it comes time to actually venture off into the unknown, supporting yourself full time under that effort, it's going to require shoring up in areas that you're not strong in. So similar story. Found a lot of good mentors that had strengths in similar verticals. Sales and marketing, legal, accounting, all of those are very important, as well as being aware of future opportunities and having the time to capitalize on those as well. You're really supposed to build a bridge well before you intend to cross it. So I really think that pairing yourself with folks that have those experiences and insights helps prepare you not only for your immediate challenges, but challenges down the road as well.
Brian?
Yeah, we took advantage of a lot of the relationships that we have with other breweries and other brewers in the middle part of the state, and even in other states too, because starting a brewery is, there's no real good manual for it. There's only a few thousand breweries in America. So the figuring out the how and the why is something that needs to be done a little bit more organically, I think, in this field too. We're not really being any textbooks in how to do this, so we wouldn't be where we're at without the support of the craft brewing community and people that are willing to help us make sure that we don't, if nothing else, fall into the normal pitfalls or the things that they learned from the hard way.
So it's association with other people, because I get the sense that you're not a fan of business plans.
I'm not necessarily not a fan of business plans. It's just the practical application for a startup brewery isn't necessarily as strong as it could be for other more known types of businesses with more experience with starting those kind of businesses, or just more traditional knowledge. Every brewery seems to be so unique and so different, and so dependent on the atmosphere that they're in, the environment that they're in, whether that be regulatory or cultural, that business plans, absent trying to get some bank money where you absolutely have to have a business plan and there's a necessity for that, could distract somebody that's trying to start a brewery from actually going out and doing it and dealing with the challenges and overcoming those, Beer is a nice field in that the demand is there. So long as you do it correctly, you do it well, and you gain people's confidence, and you put quality product into the market, and you're able to do so without creating an environment where, not paying your taxes or doing something that offends the government regulatory authorities to stop you from doing business. The beer business really is a lot of the struggle is starting. Really getting through the hoops to get the licensing and get it going. And so business plan focuses so much on what you're going to do once the brewery starts, once the business starts, that I could see where that could be kind of short-sighted or misguided, misappropriated time and attention for someone in a brewery startup. Not that I don't like them, I can see their application to other things, yeah.
Let's look at some fiber.
Yeah.
You got denim, regular old denim, right?
That's right. So this is blue jeans that someone threw away, and we cut a little swatch of the blue jeans, and 13 million tons of fiber ends up in our landfills every year, and that's just the fiber from textiles. And you might say, well, what's the alternative to doing that? And that's that you can take this material and do our process and make something that is a building material. And the beauty is it doesn't use glue. So you're not paying for glue. If you think about something like cotton's a wonderful material, engineering material. It's got all kinds of properties and qualities that you can't do with polypropylene or other plastics, including it's biodegradable. So if you can make something good from this and turn it into this, then it means that not only do you potentially have you can close the loop on what do you do with textiles, but in addition, you can, at the end of product life, you've got something that's compostable because it's a natural material.
But how do you get from denim to the...
Yeah, chemistry. So the simple chemistry lesson is that when people learn about chemistry, they think about how atoms bond to other atoms to make molecules. And that's less than half the story. The other half of the story is how molecules are attracted to other molecules. And so what we have is a process that basically you apply a chemistry that for a moment allows the molecules on the outside of a fiber to become open to the potential to fusing with the molecules on the outside of a nearby neighboring fiber. And when you do that, then you can take two fibers and you make one fiber without glue. And then you take your chemistry back, you recycle it, you can use it again and again, and you end up then with a physical change that's been imparted to your original fiber substrate. So it means you can work with waste products. You can also, farmers can grow weeds and things like that actually have wonderful properties if you could manufacture them into something usable. And so in a similar way, if this is a waste product getting up converted to something that's useful, here's maybe a product that a farmer can grow. And I'm a farm kid from Iowa originally, so if you told my dad and brother that you can make more money growing fiber and up converting it into a variety of things, furniture and walls of your house and a bunch of things, then they'd gladly grow fiber. Or potentially you can take the fiber from corn crop and up convert that to the point where it's, it could be as valuable someday as the corn itself. So
I hesitate to use the term, but this is known as ionic liquid facilitated biopolymer mobilization.
That's pretty good, ain't ya?
If I had said that, the audience would have turned off the television set.
Yeah.
But the practical application, you said it could be used in furniture, in walls, etc. Literally.
Yeah, literally. So if you look around, if the viewers look around their home, in the room they're sitting in, or we're looking around the studio here, there's a number of materials that we have in our everyday life that, especially for those of us fortunate living in industrialized companies, or countries, I should say, that we have access to because of our access to resources, in particular petroleum and natural gas and those resources. And most people don't realize how energy intensive many of your everyday materials in your life are. And so, anyway, everyone acknowledges and recognizes there's a limit to the amount of resources on the planet, especially when you have 7 billion people and growing. And so what we have is, a lower cost, potentially manufacturing technology that makes all those common things we take for granted, whether it's the back to a chair or the wall of your house, or countertops and cabinets and many things, the clothes you wear, all those things can be made in a different way and in a way that's less resource intensive and therefore not only adds more dollars to the consumer's pocket here in Illinois, but also all over the world. Makes new customers that currently can't afford some of the stuff we have.
The third world countries are
That's
going
right.
to benefit from this.
That's right.
So, DevBright Incorporated, you do software development.
That's right.
And as I said at the top of the show, to me, that's a crowded field. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Right. Software is at the core of everything we do. I mean, from the cameras that we're using right here, right now, to the phones in our pockets, to sharing information with loved ones, to doing regular business, normal business throughout a day. It's everywhere. And what comes with that is the intelligent application of technology to achieve something. And I know that sounds very lofty, but it's very practical. Especially here in 2017, the trend will continue that your technology companies, the companies that build better mousetraps, if you will, using technology, are going to provide enhanced services. They're going to solve problems and make conducting normal business more efficient. So at somewhere along the line, before they deliver that, you have to have a software engineers that go in and understand the objective. They reduce it down to some of the basic mechanical parts you'll need in order to accomplish your goals, and then they have to know how to bridge it together. And that's what we do. No two projects look alike, no two solutions look alike. So we use phrases like software development, but really what it comes down to is solving business problems using technology, using software.
is this more customized in your particular case, or is it more off of a template or platform?
Yeah, no, it's customized. That's what we specialize in. Is we like to get involved and come in and work with a client and achieve a goal when you can't really just go buy something that accomplishes it. Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, those tools achieve things. People know what they do. They go to them and don't really need a software engineer to create a Word document or to create a program that calculates values for some of the chemistry he's referring to. Those tools are out there. But sometimes you want to take those calculations, share them with a third-party system, run another process against it to make sure that certain conditions are present and met, and then you want to go on and do A, B, and C. That's where we would come in and work with the client and business partner to build a program that does that.
In a program that if it requires a heavy load, that it won't crash,
Absolutely.
et cetera?
That's right. So with any software program, there's going to be a demand on that program, which of course means there's a server somewhere that's actually performing the work and providing the calculations that you need and is keeping track of the process. Well, as demand increases, you need more and more resources. So the program and the software that you're running at its core has to be built in such a way to where it's easily scalable. And what that means is, if you can think about peak times of social media use, I would venture to say that somewhere deep in the data centers of Facebook, they have servers that are being provisioned on the fly to accommodate the demand, and then as demand lowers, they're deprovisioning some of the resources to control costs. So the programs, all the way through the infrastructure, all the way through to the demand, all has to be taken into account in order to build software properly.
I'm sure if I asked all three of you, what are your prospects for long-term success of your companies, you'd all say, oh yeah, because that's why you got into it.
Believers.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right.
But in terms of, we keep hearing people talk about small business is where job growth is. That's where a majority of jobs really are. What are the prospects for Normal, Bloomington, Galesburg, Peoria in terms of generating your types of businesses? Is it a field that is full of richness or potential Silicon Valley, or are we still struggling? What's your sense?
No, I think there's a whole bunch of advantages, and then there's some acknowledged disadvantages. So, whereas on the coast, there's a lot more money in terms of VC capital and those kinds of things. People that want to latch onto a big idea and put a lot of money behind, and a lot of resources behind a big idea that maybe we don't have as much of, although we certainly have some in Central Illinois, because here we all are, right? So there's that. There's Peoria in particular. We got a very rich, of course, manufacturing history, and we've sort of, the company has benefited from the fact that while Caterpillar has had to let some people go, we've been able to pick up some just tremendous people, highly talented engineers and things to help us do this kind of stuff. So I think there's a lot of smart people around. I think there's a lot of people with the kind of values that you want to build a small business with, that not only want to make a good product and get it out to the marketplace, but want to do it in a way that's conscious about other people and how we integrate with the greater community. So I think that in particular to me is something that the Midwest has that it's a strength.
Your take on this?
I think Bloomington Normal is primed for growth in craft brewing. If nothing else, because the laws are getting a little bit more advantageous for craft brewers, specifically in Normal. When we started our brewery, it wasn't legal to serve the beer to the public in any kind of establishment that didn't have food to the level where you'd be considered a restaurant. So we changed that law to allow us to serve our beer on premise directly to people, which makes the model a little bit more profitable, but also allows us to identify with our clientele and to invite them into the space so that they can identify personally with the brand, having been to the facility and met the people that work there and tried it there. So I could see that opening the doors to more breweries in Normal, and in opening the doors to Bloomington, changing any laws that may preclude people from doing the same in that town to keep up with Normal, since they're neighboring communities too, and that could transfer throughout the middle part of the state also.
Did they change those laws at your request, or was there other demand, so to speak, from other microbreweries that were
We're the
popping up?
only microbrewery that's production only in Normal. So
Okay.
Distills Brew Pub is there, but that's a restaurant since they have a brew pub, and the license was always there for them to be able to do that. So yeah, they created it for us in this instance, but more generally for businesses like us to feel comfortable coming to Normal and knowing that they can operate in a profitable model, and that Normal's open to that to the industry.
Matt, is there a sense of entrepreneurship in the area?
Absolutely, and there's been a huge uptick over the last couple of years. Like I said, I got started under the Startup Peoria initiative. For those of you not familiar with that, there's a facility called The Nest, which basically got started to help entrepreneurs have a place to come, get rooted, have access to resources to help their business model, not only get some traction and validation, but actually help connect them with resources. So yes, I mean, we wouldn't be where we are today without some of the resources and opportunities that we had under the entrepreneurship effort and spirit going on under Startup Peoria. So yeah, I mean, there's been kind of that Silicon Valley entrepreneurship effort. I know you mentioned earlier about the Kauffman Foundation coming in. They're huge. They're one of the hugest organizations for entrepreneurship in the country, and they've had an increased effort here in the Peoria area, and I can see why.
Do you get the sense of a surge that there's?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of people with good ideas, right? And in our space, I look around Peoria, and there's the city of Peoria, and then there's a whole bunch of farmland that could be highly productive making things. And so we got a whole bunch of resources, but broadly defined, people and the land and a number of things. And
Are you working with USDA Lab here?
Yeah,
Because
actually.
this is a
Yeah,
farm product.
especially on the academic side, I have a colleague, his name is Brent Tisserat at the National Center for Agricultural Utilization Research. That's one of the reasons that brought me to Peoria was, so I was at the U.S. Naval Academy for 5 years, and anyway, worked with a bunch of really smart people to develop this core technology. And then my wife's homing beacon went off when baby number 3 was on the way. And I'm from the Midwest. My wife, we're both from Iowa. So we started looking at jobs in the Midwest. And what attracted me to choose Bradley was, first of all, Bradley's a high quality institution, but also right across the interstate from Bradley is this large USDA lab. And I thought to myself, there's probably someone who cares about this kind of stuff at the USDA. And so I was fortunate to meet a number of people over there that we collaborated on a number of different projects. Yeah.
You know that we have to show off some beer.
Yeah.
What beer do you have to show us today?
I brought 3 beers today. This is a pretty good example of a cross-section of the different styles that we do. I think some breweries start with kind of a style in mind, whether it's a German-style brewery or a Belgian brewery, or some places really focus on IPAs. Maybe we lack focus, but we like to create. So we create a lot of different beers, and some of them are kind of original creations. The first of which being this rye saison. It's called Casual Jesus. It's one of our most popular. I think the name gets people to give it a try, and then the beer itself actually keeps them coming back. It's a rye-based malt with a Belgian yeast, and we use American hops in it too. So it kind of is a tip of the hat to different traditional brewing styles, all melded together in something that's uniquely ours. The second beer that I brought is our yearly release of our bourbon barrel-aged barley wine, which is a big, thick, viscous, decadent style beer. It's best shared with a couple friends. It's 10.5% alcohol, and we age it in bourbon barrels that we get from Kentucky, and we'll age that for several months in there too to add an extra layer of complexity. The final beer that I brought is our flagship IPA. It's called Bro Do You Even IPA. As a new brewery, we knew that if we showed up without an IPA, people would talk about us as if we didn't know what we were doing. So we did. We gave it a pretty rowdy name, and that also inspired us to give it a pretty intense hop presence. So it's got a lot of hop flavor and aroma. We really like to keep these beers as fresh as possible. The IPAs, we limit the production and the distribution of those so that we can ensure that we usually get these consumed within 30 days so that it has the most fresh hop appearance possible. That's one of the benefits of being small, being a small brewery, is that we can limit the things like this in production, but we still have the capacity to be able to brew enough of this so that we can get it in enough people's hands where they can age it for years.
And real briefly, how big are you?
We're pretty small now. We're in the process of scaling up. We started with a 4-barrel system, so we were only brewing about 125 gallons at a time. We just scaled up to allow us to produce 15 barrels at a time.
And with that, we are out of time. I appreciate the discussion on startup companies. I'd like to say thank you to Matt Cischetti, rather. I'll get the name straight, excuse me. Matt Cischetti is the president of DevBright Incorporated. And there's a website, devbright.net,
Right.
that they can go to if they want more information.
Right.
Thank you to Brian Ballard, who is the founder of the brewery company over in Normal by the name of White Oak Brewing. They have a Facebook page. And also to Dr. Luke Haverhals. He is the founder of Natural Fiber Welding Incorporated. Thank you all three for joining us on At Issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us in the discussion. We'll be back next week with a visit with Congresswoman Sherry Bustos, who represents the 17th Congressional District, serving parts of Peoria, Rockford, and all of the Quad Cities. That's next time on At Issue.